Hey, and welcome to this video. In today's video I want to address a few of the common prejudices people have against the Gibson Les Paul. The Les Paul is still a fantastic and versatile guitar, and contrary to what some musicians claim, it's not just an instrument for aging blues lawyers or Gibson fanboys with too much money. For the past few years it's been hip to make fun of Gibson, and sure, under the previous management, the one that led the company until its bankruptcy filing in 2018, Gibson definitely didn't shine when it came to quality control or marketing. But under the new management, there has been a very clear upward trend in both departments. However, in this video, I don't want to focus too much on the whole corporate image drama. I want to look at the guitar purely from a player's perspective. Like any other guitar, and I really mean any other, the Les Paul has certain strengths that suit certain styles and approaches, but of course it also has its downsides. I'm reviewing this guitar purely from my personal perspective, but I'll also address some of the recurring criticisms I hear all the time. I've been playing guitar since 2003, teaching since 2005, and I've been active as a musician, songwriter and producer since 2008. I bought my first Epiphone Les Paul in 2004, switched to Gibson in 2009, and I've been very happy with that decision ever since. I play a 2008 Slash Signature Gold Top, although I modified it a little. Instead of the Slash Signature on the headstock, it has the classic Les Paul decal and gold control knobs. I also own a 2010 Les Paul Traditional and a 2011 Les Paul Studio. I consider myself a pure player. Collecting guitars has never interested me. I'm a very pragmatic person in general, and when it comes to equipment, I like things simple and straightforward. My rig is super basic. I play an old Marshall, I don't use any pedals except a Crybaby, and even with my Kemper at home, which could theoretically give me every effect or amp instantly, I only use a handful of settings. But I'm also not some blues guy who noodles around with pentatonic scales and prefers the Les Paul just because of its quote-unquote legendary status. I actually enjoy experimenting with sounds and modern techniques, but I also believe that you can create interesting modern music without having endless pedals and gear. So why did I choose this guitar in the first place? Well, some of my biggest musical heroes played one. Slash was the main reason I even started playing guitar, but I'm also a huge fan of Jimmy Page and Joe Perry. And guitarists like Buckethead or Zakk Wylde, who constantly prove that you can shred on a Les Paul, are among the players I enjoy listening to the most. Both of my guitar teachers in my first 3 years also had Les Pauls, so I had early access to some incredible custom shop models that always fascinated and inspired me. If we start with the looks, the Les Paul has a unique appearance. Like all early solid body electric guitars, it's a work of art. Its carved top, classic single cut shape, heavy build and unique finishes, whether bursts or gold tops, have always appealed to me the most. If I were more into motorcycles, I'd pick a heavy cruiser over a racing bike any day. I've always preferred muscle cars over lowered sports cars, and the Les Paul feels the same to me. It delivers fat sounds, and with the right amp, it's not only warm but also woody. And if you know what you're doing, you can still take this beast onto the racetrack and really push it. Most other guitars look and feel like toys to me by comparison. Now here comes the first criticism, and you really can't deny this one: the weight. A Les Paul is simply much heavier than most other guitars, and you just have to deal with that. I actually had lower back problems starting in my early 20s because I had spent way too much time sitting, playing video games, and I once trained very badly at the gym when I was 17. A terrible combination. But the weight of the Les Paul didn't contribute to my issues. But people who have problems in the neck or thoracic spine area might, however, be better off with a lighter guitar. One thing I've always loved beside the Les Paul's look is its electronics. The combination of having a volume and tone knob for each pickup and the 3-way toggle. This setup gives you tons of tonal options even without pedals. I also really like Gibson's stop tailpiece and bridge combination. I can rest my palm comfortably, shift my wrist forward for palm mutes while still having some support, and with the right gain and volume get really cool sounds when I hit the strings between the pickups. The shorter scale length also works great for my shorter fingers. I also like playing in E-flat tuning and use 11 gauge strings, and thanks to the shorter scale length, bends are still easy. Now let's get to another criticism that's hard to deny: the headstock and its steep angle. Yes, that really is a major weak point. I dropped my gold top a few years ago and the headstock broke. Luckily it was a clean break, and a friend of mine who also takes care of my amp repaired it so well you can't even see it. Of course, guitars aren't meant to be thrown on the floor. That accident was 100% my fault. I could have just hung it back on the wall instead of placing it on the couch and then tripping over the cable. And this might upset some of you. Since the repair, the guitar actually sounds a tiny bit better. Another criticism I hear a lot is that the Les Paul isn't stable in tuning, especially the G string, because of the way the tuners line up on the headstock. I only ever have issues when my strings are too old. Here's a little tip on how to tune your Les Paul when you pick it up for the first time. Tune each string with very small adjustments while constantly striking it, then play bends on the 2nd and 12th fret on each string. Then correct whatever needs correcting. Usually you're good after that. It works for me every time. Now what about the claim that you can't use a Les Paul for modern techniques? In my opinion, it always depends on your approach. Lately I've been working on selective picking, for instance. Since I'm not a fan of lots of effects, I don't play it like many others do. I don't use a clean tone with a compressor. I just use a little gain like I normally do. And I'm still very early in my development with this technique, but it works fine for me. Sweep picking also isn't a big problem for me on the Les Paul. Yes, it's a bit harder to play extremely fast compared to a guitar with very low action and a flat fretboard, but with some practice it's totally doable. The same goes for other shred techniques like fast alternate picking or two-hand tapping. The Les Paul often requires a slightly different approach, but if you accept that challenge, you get rewarded with a fat tone and tons of sustain. Now let's move on to the last and most debated criticism, the price. Gibson has always offered affordable versions of the Les Paul that are of very good quality. If you don't want to spend too much money, you can get an Epiphone or a Studio Les Paul. Modern Epiphones are vastly better than my 2004 Epiphone Gold Top, and even with that guitar, I had some very fun and successful years early in my musical journey. Since there clearly is a market for very expensive limited instruments, Gibson has every right to serve that market. If someone gets upset about a $50,000 guitar, chances are they'd love to own it. They just can't afford it. And if you really want something, you should try to find a way to get it instead of complaining. So here's my conclusion about the Les Paul. You should never base your opinion on internet meme trends. I've tried tons of guitars from different manufacturers, both modern and classic, but I simply feel most at home on a Les Paul. That said, I also love good Strats, and I've played some Ibanez guitars that I enjoyed a lot. I'll definitely keep checking out other guitars in the future. It's important to look beyond your own horizon. If you're willing to follow your own creative path, be inventive and demanding, and prefer to set trends rather than follow them, then the Les Paul is still one of the best guitars you can choose. I hope you enjoyed the video and maybe learned something. I can only recommend spending an afternoon at your local music store with a few Les Pauls. You'll definitely have a great time.